everybody. How are you? I hope you're doing well, guys, and everything is moving against track. Alhamdulillah. Bismillah.
السلام عليكم.
Walaikum salam. You are 23 right now. Okay. So let's get started. Bismillah. Okay. We stopped here yesterday, so let's complete here. Our goal in this part is to use the dot product to determine if two vectors are orthogonal or parallel. Two vectors are parallel when the angle theta between the vectors is 0 or 180. Again, two vectors are parallel when the angle between the vectors is 0 degrees or 180 degrees. In the first case, if the angle theta is 0 degrees, the vectors point in the same direction. Here's it. When theta is 0, you will find that both vectors in the same direction, v and here is w. Okay, but when the angle is 180, yes, cosine the angle 180 is -1, so vectors point in opposite direction. The v is in the left side and the w in the right side. Okay, opposite directions when the angle is 180 and same direction when the angle is 0, because cosine 0 is 1, but cosine 180 is -1, so it's gonna be what? Parallel, but opposite direction in 180 degrees, and parallel in the same direction when the angle between them is 0. So simply the vectors are parallel only in case of the angle between the two vectors is 0 degrees or 180 degrees. For the perpendicular vectors or the orthogonal vectors, two vectors are orthogonal when the angle between the vectors is 90 degrees. Shown in this figure 6.67, orthogonal vectors, theta is 90 and cosine 90 is 0. Cosine 90 is 0. Okay? Yeah, and we use the orthogonal rather than using perpendicular to describe only vectors when they are when they make a 90 degrees angle between them. And from the dot product, v dot w equals magnitude v magnitude w cosine theta. If v and w are orthogonal, you will find that cosine 90 here is 0. 0 times the magnitudes gives 0. Okay? So when, in another way, guys, we can say two vectors are orthogonal means perpendicular when the dot product of them, v dot w, is what? Yes? When v dot w equals 0. When v dot w equals 0. Magnitude v 0 and magnitude w 0. And cosine theta 0. Okay, and the cosine is 0 in case of the theta is 90. So the dot product and orthogonal vectors. Two vectors are orthogonal if and only if their dot product is 0, because 0 times v is 0, so they are orthogonal. Okay, let's take here one example of how to determine whether the two vectors are orthogonal, means perpendicular here. Okay, so v is 6i minus 3j and w is I plus 2j. So we simply here find what you can answer, guys, from the previous definition when two vectors are orthogonal. Yes. Yes. Who can find first the angle between these two vectors? Cosine theta. From the previous knowledge of yesterday, cosine any angle between the angle between v and w is equal to v dot w, and this all over what?
Magnitude
Vector
of v
magnetic
Yes.
3 magnetic W.
Yes, so at the right here, we can find the dot product of these two vectors v and w. So multiplying gives what? Gives 6 times 1, which is 6. We just multiply here the 6 by the 1 here. 6 by 1 is
6
6.
minus 6.
And then now negative 3 times 2, which is negative 6, so it's 0. So the
So
numerator here is what? 0, so simply no
everything
need
is
to
0,
find the
yes.
denominator. No need
Cosine
to.
theta equals 0.
Cosine theta is 0, so theta is what? Is 90 degrees. And the cosine inverse of 0 equals to what? 90. So my angle is 90 degrees, so the two vectors are orthogonal, right?
Yes.
Okay, nice. Any question?
No, clear, Mr.
It's clear, guys. So to determine whether if the two vectors are orthogonal, you just find here the angle between them. If the angle between them is 0, يعني theta is 90, so V and W are what? Orthogonal. يعني
Orthogonal.
perpendicular. يعني perpendicular. Let's move on to the next. Where's the checkpoint? Here's the checkpoint. No checkpoint. We have an example for a checkpoint. Let me bring this a checkpoint for you. 1 minute, please. Okay, 1 minute, please. What's the checkpoint? You can tell me the question of the checkpoint. Here's it, checkpoint number 3. Let me write it here in black. طيب.
Are the vectors v equals 2i plus 3j?
So vector v is what? 2i
2i plus 3j.
plus 3j. And
w
equal
6i minus 4j.
6i minus 4j. And the same question, are the vectors are what?
Yes, yes.
Orthogonal.
Are they orthogonal?
طيب. So v dot w first equals 2 times 6 is 12 minus 12, so it's simply 0. So when the dot product is 0, so the cosine, the angle is v dot w, and this all over magnitude v magnitude w, فأكيد يبقى النوميريتور 0، يبقى أكيد الانجل is what? 90 degrees. يبقى the two vectors are orthogonal. Yes, they are. This is checkpoint number 3. Okay, let's move on to objective number 4, which is find the projection of a vector onto another vector. Projection of a vector onto another vector. Okay, so here, as you see, guys, we know now how to add vectors to obtain resultant vector. We know how to reverse this process by expressing a vector as the sum of two orthogonal vectors. By doing this, you can determine how much force is applied to a particular direction. For example, 6 هنا figure 4.6.69. It's what? It's a boat on a tilted ramp, and the force due to gravity F is pulling straight down on the boat. Part of this force F1 is pushing the boat down the ramp. Another part of the force F2 is what? Pressing the boat against the ramp. Okay. And here's the how to find projection. Listen carefully, عشان not to be hard and make it easy. We have to write this vector F due to gravity into our analysis this vector into two of the sum of two forces components يعني. And then what, guys? Find the projection. I need you only this all the proof, okay? I need you only, guys, to use this fact, this formula, to find the projection of vector W into V. Okay, no need yet to know this. No question I'm gonna ask you about the proof of how to generate this formula. So no need, guys. Just know how to find the vector projection V onto W. خلاص. Okay, if V and
Okay.
W are two non-zero vectors, yes, the vector projection V onto W is like this. Projection of V into W, projection of V onto W. is equal to the dot product of V and W over what here? We name it here the unit. This is the unit vector in the direction of W. This one is the unit vector in the direction of W. Okay, and this one here is magnitude of vector projection to W. طيب احفظوها بس. أو keep it in your mind that projection V onto W is V dot W over magnitude W squared times W. So it's applying بس الرول. Applying بس الرول. V is given, W is given. Find the vector projection V onto what? W. عمر زكريا is not here, right? عمر زكريا. لا هنا. عمر زكريا عبد الله. Do you hear me, Amar? Answer this question by using this formula above. طيب سامر خالد. Yes, سامر خالد.
Mr. I solve?
Samir Khalid is not here.
No, Mr. I don't know. No one is answering.
Okay, يلا يا محمد فايز.
يلا مصر. Okay, at first we'll find the V times W. It will be negative 4 plus 24. So it will be equals to 20.
We will write like this: projection of project best W and here V. يعني V onto W. V فوق W تحت يعني V
Yes.
into W equals V dot
V
W
times W over this is the magnitude, Mr.
magnitude
What
W
we call
squared
this?
times what? W.
Yes, times W. V times W is 2 times negative 2.
multiply 2 times negative 2.
Yes, so negative 4.
لا نكتبها in steps الأول ها بعدين plus 4 times
Plus
6.
4 times 6.
This is the numerator. And then the denominator, which is what's the magnitude W?
Radical.
Radical. And on the right I will find radical.
Negative 2 squared plus 6 squared.
حلو. Plus 6 squared equals
4 plus 36.
Equals
for radical 40.
radical 40. Leave it as radical. And then here,
Yes.
because it's squared, we have to write radical 40 all squared. Okay, guys, here's a square. عشان كده عملنا e power 2. And right here we found the magnitude of vector W اللي هو بيسميه the unit vector in the W component. Then multiply by what?
Multiply by W.
By W. What is W? Negative 2i.
Negative 2i
plus 6j.
Yes.
Okay, هنا multiply by W. لو العكس projection W onto V يبقى multiply by what? By V. So numerator in the numerator
20.
wait. In the numerator it's negative 4 plus 24, which is 20. And this
20.
all over what? Now 40.
40.
We're gonna cancel this and this, yes. And then negative 2i
Negative 2i plus 6j. It will be 1/2 times negative 2i plus 6j. So it's negative I plus 3j.
Distributive property in half plus 3j. This is a projection vector of V onto W. You need back to know this all film. You know, you have the cosine formula and then you have to do this. مش مهم في الآخر توصل الفورمولا. مش مطلوبة منك يعني. جمع بياخدوها. طيب check point number 4. What's the projection vector of the V onto W برضه. Plus 1 محمد فارس.
Thank you.
أنا answer, Mr.
Okay, محمد مين سباعي؟
Yes.
طيب يلا.
So the
One
formula
more
is
participant,
projection.
guys, at the end of this week will take his full mark in participation. Okay, and attendance.
mean
So,
mister?
the one who will participate always with me during a week by a week, يعني from Sunday to Thursday. Thursday after that class I will put all, we have that 70 period. في آخر اليوم في آخر الويك I will put for you the total marks. فهنا الضرايب أنا معايا ورقة بسجل فيها who answered, who participated, who not, and so on. At the end of the week I will give you the full mark أو the mark بقى إيه minus 2 minus 3 حسب شغلك أنت طول الأسبوع. V is 2i minus 5j and W is
Yes.
I minus j. Find the vector projection of V onto W. محمد فارس.
Projection. No, me, محمد سباعي.
محمد سباعي sorry.
V W equal V times W over magnitude of W squared. Yes, times
times
W.
me W. Okay.
V times W.
V times what? W. You can multiply it quickly here.
2, 2
Multiply
minus
2. Multiply 1 is 2.
2 minus 2 multiply 5, 10.
Negative 5 times negative
Plus
1.
5, plus 5.
Plus 5
So
Muhammad.
it's
And negative
7.
5 times negative 1 is 5. Yes,
And
multiply.
now the
Type.
magnitude of
Magnitude of
W
what? W. Equal?
well 1 squared
1 squared
plus negative 1 squared.
plus negative 1
So
squared.
radical 2.
1 plus
1
1,
plus
which
1
is
equal
radical
2.
2.
Oh, yeah. Keep it radical because they're squared. So it will be radical 2 squared
Radical 2 in the formula, it's power 2. We will cross it
times
out times the W, which is
I minus J.
G.
Now equal 7 over 2 times I minus J.
I minus
Now
G.
distributive property 7 over 2I minus 7 over 2J.
Yeah, 7 over 2I, excellent. Over 7 over 2J, thank you. Okay.
Can I solve the next one, mister?
It's bad. Yes, it's. Omar Baha, raised hand.
Yes.
And would like guys also to participate. Raise hand, please. Raise hand. حلو. Okay, now we use the vector projection of V onto W to express V as a sum of two orthogonal what? Vectors. Because if you see here the graph we would like to يعني to do على projection of V into W هتلاقي في بينهم ايه right angle. This is the projection V onto W which is parallel to what? To V. بيكون بادئ من ال intersection point between V and W. Okay. بينتهي عند الريد لاين او الداشد لاين the one here. طيب فهم هنكتبه as the sum of two orthogonal what vectors now. The vector components of V. If you have two vectors V and W, vector V can be expressed as the sum of two orthogonal vectors V1 and V2, where V1 is parallel to W and V2 is parallel to W. Okay. V1 equals projection W V onto W equals نفس الرول اللي أخذناه الآن. و V2 أكيد هتبقى V minus V1. So V equals V1 plus V2, and the vectors V1 and V2 are the vectors components of V. The process of expressing V as V1 and V plus V2 is called what? Decomposition of V into V1 and V2. اللي يهمنا هنا في الماث what? When it's given here, for example, two vectors decompose V into two vectors V1 and V2. انت عرفت يعني ايه decomposition means writing this vector V as the sum of V1 and V2 اللي هو vector components of V where V1 is parallel to W and V2 is orthogonal to W. Okay? Let's do example 5. It's important. Yes. V1, he said in V1 is parallel to W and V2 is what? Orthogonal to what? W. Okay? واحد يكون parallel وواحد يكون ايه؟ orthogonal. So V1 هذا هو البروجيكشن تبعه والV2 بيعمل ماينس بس. تعال. What can help me guys doing this question? If I asked مثلا واحد من يرفعين ايديهم like محمد طيب شوقي مثلا يلا. Yes.
Yes, Mister.
Okay.
First we start with V1 because it's parallel and we can only get V2 from V1. So it's a projection of W into V equals V times W over magnitude of W squared times W.
Wait بس بعمل حاجة في البن بس بكتب.
Okay.
ثانية واحدة. Yes ظبط.
It's V over V times W. V times W divided by the magnitude of W squared times W. So it's 2 plus 4 times negative 2 plus 6.
And the previous one was
2
V11
times
V1.
negative 2 is negative 4.
It's the projection of what? V into
W into V.
يعني
V times W over magnitude W squared multiplied by W.
Yeah, which is equal
Meaning
to?
negative 4 plus 24.
Negative 4 plus 24, I think.
Yes, and then we W we get 2 squared plus 6 squared, which will be square root of 40. Then squared, which means the magnitude of W squared equals 40.
حلو. root 40 and we said here it's root 40 all
Squared, so
square.
it's 40.
This question. Type times what? The W.
Times W, which is negative 2i plus 6j. So we multiply first.
Here is 20 over 40, which is half.
Yes.
And negative 2i plus 6j.
So it's negative I plus 3j.
Negative I plus 3j. This is V1.
The projection of V1, yes. And then
V1
V2 is V minus V1.
طيب V2.
So it's 2i plus 4j minus I minus negative I plus 3j.
What?
2i plus 4j.
2i plus 4j.
Minus.
Which is V minus V1.
Negative I plus 3j.
Negative I plus 3j.
So it's 3i plus j. 3i plus j.
Yeah, 2i minus I and 3i. And we have 4j minus 3j, which is plus j. Okay. Easy here, right? This vector 2. He said in the vector 2 is orthogonal to W. You can check here, guys. You can check your answer. تعال نشوف هل هو orthogonal with W or not. V2 multiplied by W. Is it 0 or not? V2, which is 3i plus j, multiplied
negative
by
2i plus 6j.
Negative 2i plus 6j.
Negative 6i plus
Negative
6j.
6 بس من غير i plus
negative 6 plus 6 equals 0. So
equals
it's
0 يبقى
correct.
فعلا orthogonal. طيب هل V1 is parallel to W؟
We multiply them and it has to be 180.
أو 0.
Yes.
Since the dot product of V2 and W is 0, so the angle is 90. But
yes.
when the dot product is what? No, when the angle here, we can find the angle between V1 and the W. We can do it here to make sure برضه إن هو parallel or not. Let me do it here. طب أعرف منين إنهم parallel؟ أجيب الكوساين theta, which is V dot W and this all over magnitude V magnitude W. So cosine theta is equal to this all between V1 and W. V1 and W to check that V1 is parallel to W. So V1 dot W, yes, show. V1 is here, dot this W, negative 2I plus 6J.
Yes, yes. So multiply 2 times negative 2
Yeah, we have negative 2,
times
then plus 3 times 4, which is what?
where's the negative 2, mister?
I multiplied by V, sorry. Yes, we multiplied by V1 by W here, so negative 2 times negative 1 is 2.
So it's 2, yes, and then
And
it's 18 plus 18,
which is
which is
3 here
20.
by 6. Hello. And this will have a magnitude V1,
Yes,
magnitude V1. Where's V1? Its magnitude here is square root of negative 1
1
squared
square, which is
plus
1
3
plus
squared.
9 square root 10.
Square root 10. And square root 10, and here the square root of W. Magnitude W can root 40.
Got it, square root 40, yes.
حلو. In the calculator, 2 plus 18, 20 over root 10
20
root
over square
40.
root
Root 400,
400.
which is 20.
So it's 20. 1.
So 20 over 20 equals 1.
Cosine 90
When I
equals
take
1.
cosine theta is 1, أكيد طبعا الcosine inverse of 1 equals
Negative 180 or 0.
equals 0 أو 180 حسب صح؟ فأكيد
Yes.
هم كذا parallel. هم
Yes.
مين V1 and the W and V2 and the W are orthogonal.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Shawki. Thank you. طيب. Next question. Check one number 5. We ask here Ahmed Shihab. Let V is 2I minus 5J and W is I minus J. These are the vectors from checkpoint 4 يعني, to help you to do your steps quickly. Decompose V into two vectors V1 and V2 such that, or where V1 is parallel to W and V2 is orthogonal to W. Yes, we solve this question, Mr. Muhammad.
So here, yeah, mister, we need to reverse the steps, or you solve the same way.
Reverse the steps. We would like to write the V as V1 plus V2 into two components, or sum of two components. فيلا هات V1 واعمل V2 by minus. V1 equal, same steps, يلا. V1 equals
V1, okay, same steps. V1 equal B multiplied by W over the magnitude of W squared multiplied by W.
yes.
Uh,
We did it before in checkpoint 4 بس أنا رخم أعملها تاني. طيب ها.
يعني mister, I need to go back to.
No. Just do it quickly أصلا نرجع back ونجيبها
Okay,
نكون
so 2
عملنا.
multiplied by I, and 2 multiplied by 1,
Is 2
and over the
plus or minus here, negative 5 by negative 1, it's what? Plus 5. We multiply V by W. Right?
yes.
Hmm.
And then over the magnitude of W squared, we put radical.
It's fine first here at the right. We give magnitude W equals radical.
2
Where's W?
squared
Is it?
plus
1 plus 1. Radical 2.
sorry,
صح?
mister. Yeah, radical 1 plus 1 equal radical over radical 2 squared multiplied by I multiplied by W, I minus J.
So the projection of V onto W, which is the first vector, V1 equals, عندك 7 over كم? Here,
I'm calculating it, mister.
7 over 2, yeah. We cancel out the radical, and 2 plus 5 up here is 7, and
7 over
down will be 2.
multiplied by I minus J.
Yes, which is 7 over 2, I minus 7 over 2, what?
J.
7 over 2J. Okay. Yes, next.
Now that we got V1, we will look for
V2,
yes,
which is V minus V1.
V minus V1.
حلو. What's the V من ال given
2i minus
information؟
5j
أيوه.
minus 7 over 2i minus 7 over 2j,
7 over 2i minus 7 over 2j.
which makes it 2i minus 5i minus 7 over 2i plus 7 over 2j.
طيب do it directly يعني by subtracting 2 minus 7 over 2 and subtracting negative 5 and plus 5 over 2.
It will turn out
Okay,
to be
so 2 minus 3.5, it's negative 1.5, right?
yes, and
Yes,
negative 5.
negative 5, negative 7.5, 7 over 2 means negative 5 plus 3.5,
It will be also negative 1.5.
negative 1.5j.
Yes.
Okay, so this is vector 2. That's it. هو بس عايز vector 1 and vector 2 بس. أنا عملت بس check here in the previous question that V1 and W
Or orthogonal.
are what?
Orthogonal.
Are parallel.
Oh,
V1 and
sorry.
W
Not
are
V2 and
parallel.
W. Yeah, V1 and V2 are parallel.
And
V2 and
V2
W are
and
orthogonal.
W are what?
Orthogonal here. Yes.
And طبعا to do this guys you have to find in parallel way عشان أتأكد إن V1 and W are parallel. These two vectors are parallel. You should find the angle between them. لو طلعت 0 or 180, yes they are
If it's
parallel.
0, it's orthogonal.
لا orthogonal when the angle is 90.
Well, the angle is 90, but here
Or when the dot product of V2 and W is 0.
yes.
Take care. Pay attention here guys. When V2 times W is 0 يبقى orthogonal أو الأنجل نفسها تبقى 90. وهنا V1 and W the angle between them تطلعها 0 وتطلعها 180 يبقى they are parallel. Okay, the last part of our lesson today, which is definition of work. The work W done by a force F moving on an object from A to B. W is F, this what force moving from a point A to B times the AB vector. To find it, here we have what? Alternative formula W equals F times what? The magnitude of V of F times magnitude of AB cosine A, such that F is the magnitude of force and the force you need to move a point of something from A to B, and magnitude AB, which is the distance over which the constant force is applied, and theta is the angle طبعا between the force and the direction of the motion. Okay, for example, yes, the last example here, checkpoint what? مين اللي بعكوك اللي هنا؟ Okay. The last example here, a child pulls a sled along level ground. Yes, let me ask you, Muhammad, to read this problem quickly.
Yes, Mr.
Read.
A child pulls a sled along level ground by exerting a force of 30 pounds on a rope that makes an angle of 35 degrees with the horizontal. How much work is done pulling the sled 200 feet?
The force is 30 pounds. An angle is 35 degrees with the horizontal.
I'm not sure how to solve it, Mr.
How much work is done pulling the sled 200 feet? So apply this formula in the previous one. Apply this formula, which is W is F, magnitude F, magnitude AB cosine theta. خلاص. Okay.
Can I see the equation one more time, Mr.?
Yes. Let's write it here in the next slide, which is W equals
W equal F times
magnitude
AB.
F magnitude AB اللي هي الديستنس اللي عملها مع الهوريزونتال أو من أول ما حصل الفول من هنا لهنا. Okay, times what? Cosine the angle theta. So apply.
Okay, so F is 30.
F is 30.
Yes, and the AB is 200, so times 200. times cosine theta, which is cosine 35. It will be 4,914.9.
Yes, again.
4,914.9.
You only multiply 30 by 30 by what? By 200?
Yes. By cosine 35.
And then you got the answer, right?
Yes.
طيب, what's the answer?
It's 4,914.9.
4,000?
914.9.
Okay, معلش.
4,914.9.
4,914.9.
Yes.
Okay. Next, on the last example, like to ask now
Sir, can you back for a second, please?
Okay. Our friend Talal. And where is Samir? We call you Samir to answer. Where are you?
Do I answer?
ماشي انت يقول answer.
مستر معلش والله ما انت ناديتني قبل شوي، قالوا لي الشباب انك ناديتني، كنت انا برا البيت.
اوكي.
ما كنت مركز بالشرح معك.
والله.
والله كنت برا البيت.
للاسف.
مستر ابراهيم.
يس.
عفوا. مستر ابراهيم لو سمحت كمان انا كان بدي احل وحده كمان بعد هاي، اذا فيني احل السؤال اللي بعده ممكن، لاني انا كمان والله سمعت انه انت كمان كان ناديتني.
يس عمر زكريا ناديتك سامر. طيب اوكي يا عمر.
اوكي شكرا مستر.
اوكي طيب يلا خلاص محمد فارس السلايد.
Yes, Mr. Thank you.
طيب check point number 6. I asked which one to answer. لسه. طيب سامر تفضل. A child also read the question and try to answer.
A child pulls a wagon along level ground by exerting a force of 20 pounds on a handle that makes an angle of 30 degrees with the horizontal. How much work is done pulling the wagon 150 feet? Okay, so F equal 20 pounds.
Yes.
Theta equal 30.
Yes.
And the distance is 150 feet.
Yes.
Distance 150 feet.
No, distance is 150. Yes. The work equal
Cosine theta.
Yes. Is equal to what? The first
force times distance.
Times distance. Okay. That is what?
Times cosine theta.
Cosine the angle. Yes.
Equal 20 pounds multiplied by 150.
Multiply by 150. Multiply by cosine.
By cosine 30. Okay.
Yes.
150 multiplied by 20 multiplied by cosine 30 equal 2598. Hello?
Equals to
2598.
98.
Yes.
Okay. What?
Newton times meter.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes.
Here it's pound times feet.
Pounds times what?
Feet.
Feet. How many?
Can I solve the next one, please?
You can say foot pounds. Omar? Who would like to solve?
Yes, Mr.
Okay, عمر. طبعا خلصنا lesson. Move on to the next one. Exercises. Yes, Omar. Number 1. Yes, fill in each blank so that the resulting statement is true. If V equals A1I plus B1J and W is A2I plus B2J are vectors, the dot product of the product V dot W called the what is?
لا ثواني مستر انا هيك تخربطت انا الصراحه.
It's what? Dot
اوكي.
product. حلو. Product is defined as V dot W is equal to A1
A1 multiply A2 plus B1 multiply B2.
Okay, next question. Thank you, Omar. Omar Amin. Yes, Omar. If W, ماشي يا عمر زكريا. اسمه سامي. طيب عمر أمين. Next question.
مستر ايوه.
Number 2. If V and W are two non-zero vectors and theta is the smallest non-negative angle between them, then V dot W is equal to using the angle.
ثانية يا مستر ثانية.
We have cosine theta is equal V dot W over magnitude V magnitude W. لما اقول V dot W تقول لي على طول magnitude V multiply magnitude W cosine the angle theta. Okay, try كده to answer 3. يلا انت تاني عمر امين. Number 3. V dot W 0, then the vectors V and W are
تمام.
what?
مستر ثانية.
Okay.
orthogonal يا مستر.
When the angle is 0, they are parallel. They are what? Parallel. Is this correct, guys? You agree with me? No, طبعا they are orthogonal. لأنه مش بيسأل عن الأنجل، بيسأل على مين؟ orthogonal.
بس هو ما بيسألش على الأنجل هنا، بيسأل على
بيسأل على الدوت برودكت 0.
يبقى orthogonal صح؟
صحيح.
أيوه.
True or false? Given two non-zero vectors V and W, V can be decomposed into two vectors, one parallel to W and one other vector orthogonal to W, right? Or false? True. صحيح. Okay, thanks. Okay, طيب ليث. True or false? The definition of work indicates that work is a vector or not? Work is a vector.
Can I answer, Mr.
ليث. يعني is work a vector or not? True or false? Or a scalar?
True.
True. Okay. Good. It is finished and meet you inshallah the sixth period.
Sir, the sixth period will solve also exercise set?
I don't know. Yeah, we will complete here this lesson. نشوف. السلام عليكم.